It's Thursday, July 16th, and this is now on HNN.
When people hear the term organized crime, many times they think back to the mafia, gangsters in big cities like New York or Chicago. The Miske criminal enterprise did model itself after these organizations.
New developments in the case against an Oahu businessman accused of running an organized crime ring.
There's an old saying that you can indict a ham sandwich, and what that means is, in the grand jury, it's so one-sided, you don't get the other side of it.
A special police force in the Philippines was just activated to enforce the country's coronavirus lockdown. This, as an outbreak in Japan, is causing a growing mistrust in an already troubled relationship with the U.S. military.
Like behaving like colonial masters.
Plus, rent is due and a lot of small businesses in Hawaii can't pay it. The survey that's shedding new light on the crisis, coming up on This Is Now.
Good afternoon, and thank you for watching This Is Now. Ashley here. Jonathan will be with us in just a moment, but first we want to bring you those latest numbers from the State Department of Health. Health officials are reporting 19 new COVID-19 cases today. 16 patients are on Oahu and 3 are still under investigation. That brings the statewide total to 1,311, and more than 70% of patients have recovered from their symptoms. Now let's send it over to Jonathan, who's with our Chief Investigative Reporter Lynn Kawano, with more on that alleged crime ring led by Hawaii businessman Mike Miske.
Local businessman Mike Miske is in a federal detention center right now. He's making his first appearance in court today. He's facing charges of murder, kidnapping, a whole list of things. Lynn Kawano is here. She broke this story yesterday. Lynn, there's a 22-count indictment here. Go over some of the highlights.
I encourage everybody to read this. We have it posted on our website because this is an incredible indictment. I've really never seen anything like this. You're talking about a local businessman who had legitimate businesses, as the FBI says, but underground, according to this indictment, he had a lot going on. We're talking about murder, conspiracy. We also have chemicals, weapons that the federal government says he and his underlings or his workers released chemicals onto the dance floor of a rival's nightclub a few years ago. And one of the nightclubs that I know about, that sources have told me about, people were on the dance floor when these chemicals were released, and that cleared them all out. These chemicals are allegedly tied to fumigation and pest control, which Mike Miske owns Kama'aina Pest Control. So the federal government is making a lot of leaps there, a lot of jumps, and they're trying to connect the dots, connect him not just to the murder of this kid in 2016, which he's accused of and he was indicted by a grand jury for, but also all of these other shenanigans, really, that the FBI described. Now, to be fair, Mike Miske's attorney, Tommy Otake, was adamant that his client is going to plead not guilty to all of these charges, that the federal government really can indict a ham sandwich. That's a very famous saying, right? With a grand jury at a federal level, you can indict a ham sandwich because it's very one-sided. So according to his attorney, this is all just made up by the federal government, and it's a great overreach.
Let's go back to yesterday and the raids. This was an impressive show of force by the FBI. What was going on across the island?
So my sources tell me that more than 50 federal agents from Quantico, Virginia, where the FBI is headquartered, brought in a SWAT team. They flew them in on a private Department of Justice jet over the weekend so that they could plan for this incredible show of force. Multiple locations. We were at many of them. We were at Portlock when they hit the house that he has, in Kailua where they hit the house that he was staying at, and his business, Kama'aina Termite. There's another business in Pearl City that they hit, as well as the boat at Kewalos. So they had a lot of locations. They were seizing all the cars, the boat, a lot of property. It was an incredible show of force. And the reason those extra agents were brought in was to assist the local office, because while the local office does these kinds of raids all the time, this was just so much manpower that they needed additional resources and additional help. It was quite a sight to see.
He was arrested at that Enchanted Lakes home. We have video of that happening and going down. But he's no stranger to law enforcement. He has a rap sheet, right?
He has an extensive rap sheet. I mean, nothing like what we're looking at right now. Certainly nothing like that. But, you know, we've covered assaults, other allegations, some that were eventually dropped, including one where he was accused of threatening a police officer. That case never went anywhere as well. There's a lot of little things that added up, and then a lot of steps along the way that law enforcement say was a sign that there was a lot of fishiness going on with his businesses and what he was doing. But really, this indictment is such a leap from all of that. When you look at his state rap sheet and then you go to this indictment, it's a complete, you can't even believe it's the same person from what you're reading.
Well, let's talk about the most serious of those charges is tied to a murder. Briefly fill us in on what happened there and what we know.
So in 2016, in March of 2016, Michael Miske's son Caleb died, the result of an accident that happened in 2015. It is a horrible, tragic accident. Jonathan Frazier, who was Caleb Miske's one of his best friends, they were in the car together. They were both seriously, critically injured. Caleb Miske died in March of 2016. Jonathan Frazier recovered and was out of the hospital and was in rehab and was getting better. In July of 2016, though, just a few months later, he went missing. That was very suspicious on so many levels, but it became a missing persons report and it went nowhere for 4 years. The FBI says they had been working on it all this time, gathering evidence. They claim that a 90-foot Boston Whaler was used in the disposal of his body. That's the allegations by the FBI. You know, at this point, these are all what's in the indictment, but we have yet to see some of the evidence, and that will certainly be presented as we go along on this court process.
And I guess that gets to my last question for you is why now? Why did it all go down now? But I guess the evidence is just stacked up to the point where they feel like they have a competent case. You
know, the federal government rarely loses cases. Their success rate when you go to trial is in the range of 97 to 100% success rate. And then most of the time they get plea deals done because they have a lot of evidence. They take a lot of time building a case. And with murder, you have no time limit. There's no statute of limitations, so they can take their time. And I guess the feeling with the FBI was they needed to get all their ducks in a row, as they did with the Kealohas and several other of these cases, so that when it gets to trial, when it gets to court, there is no doubt. That's their ultimate goal, right? Beyond a reasonable doubt. So it took 4 years, and many are saying they're relieved. The Frazier family spoke with our Chelsea Davis last night. You know, they felt over the years that their son was forgotten, but in the background, this was all happening.
And thank you, Lynn, so much for your incredible reporting. And that's exactly where I want to take us next, is over to Chelsea Davis, who has more from Jonathan Frazier's family.
From the very beginning, the family suspected foul play, and they always had a feeling Mike Miske was behind it.
I knew that my son didn't just fall off the face of the earth and disappear. I knew that he didn't have some mental problem. I knew that someone took him.
Shelly Miguel says Mike Miske hated her son, Jonathan Frazier. The 21-year-old and Miske's son, Caleb, were best friends. Miguel says they did everything together. In November of 2015, the young men were involved in a bad car crash in Kaneohe. Caleb died. Frazier survived. Miguel says Miske blamed her son for Caleb's death.
I prayed for your son, not just mine, for yours too. You should have joined me in the chapel and prayed for our boys too, instead of plotting to murder and actually murdering mine.
8 months after the accident, in July of 2016, Frazier vanished. Miguel says she knew her son was kidnapped and killed by Miske and his associates, and she's been waiting for this day for 4 painful years.
I'm happy that people are being held accountable, but at the same time, it breaks my heart as a mother to know that my son will walk through my doors and that they murdered him for nothing.
She has a message for her son's alleged killers.
You not only broke my heart, but you broke Caleb's heart too. I hope you have a lot of time to think about what you've done.
Miguel says although she's happy with the indictment and these arrests, she wants Miske to confess to these charges and also tell her where he dumped her son's body. Chelsea Davis, Hawaii News Now.
Now for an update on a couple of growing coronavirus clusters, here's Lacey Denise.
A total of 10 people have tested positive for COVID-19 at a Pearl City nursing home. Dr. Scott Miskovich of Premier Medical Group said today that 7 patients and 3 staff members are confirmed to have the coronavirus. Officials say the cluster began when a staff member found out they tested positive last Thursday and immediately notified the facility. Doctors were called to test all employees and residents on Friday, and testing efforts continued through the weekend. There are a combined total of 300 people at the facility, from staff members to residents. Meanwhile, another round of COVID testing is underway today at Kona Community Hospital after another cluster has been linked to that facility.
They are having the entire facility tested immediately. Every employee, every patient, every staff member is being called in. And so within the next 5 hours, we'll have over 500 people tested. And then we'll follow that with repeat testing for the entire facility in 1 week. Anybody that was in a close contact area of the positives will be retested in 4 days.
As for the workers that have tested positive so far at Kona Community Hospital, they're all quarantining at home. For This Is Now, I'm Lacey Denise.
Elite police in the Philippines were activated today to enforce a coronavirus lockdown in parts of Manila. The Special Action Force of the Philippines National Police was deployed to detain people who violated quarantine. Now, the city is under a 2-week lockdown because of a rise in infections. The Philippines has been among the highest number of COVID cases in Southeast Asia, with nearly 59,000 people infected, a death toll of more than 1,600.
Tokyo set a new daily case record this morning with 286 infections. The previous high of 243 cases came less than a week ago. Officials believe many of the new infections are linked to nightlife districts. Bloomberg reports that Tokyo will now be left out of the nationwide program in Japan to boost domestic tourism. Meanwhile, more U.S. service members in Okinawa are testing positive for COVID-19, causing growing mistrust in an already troubled relationship between the two countries. Kaori and Joji reports.
Mistrust is mounting in Japan as more U.S. service members in the country test positive for the coronavirus. The majority of the cases are in Okinawa, where more than half of U.S. troops in Japan are stationed. In an exclusive interview with CNN, the governor said he flew to Tokyo with this plea.
First of all, please stop people from the U.S. mainland from coming to Okinawa. I would like the alert level to be raised to the highest level at Futenma and Camp Hansa in order to put those two facilities into lockdown. Honestly, I have doubts about whether adequate precautions are being taken to prevent the virus from spreading.
It's the latest strain in a troubled relationship. The presence of U.S. bases in Japan dates to the end of World War II and is the bedrock of Japan's security policy. Complaints about noise, accidents, and crime have tested the bond over the decades.
There's a long history of distrust between Okinawans and the U.S. military. And of course, Futenma, the base that is at the heart of this outbreak, is also the base where locals have wanted moved for a long time.
In unusually terse terms, Japan's defense minister called it an extremely serious situation, as fears grow that military personnel could be spreading the virus at the very moment that Japan is grappling with a second wave.
It really highlights the special status that is given to the U.S. military personnel when there is a general traffic restriction, even outside of the base. Their behavior come across as being arrogant and, like behaving like colonial masters of a sovereign nation.
Japan has a travel ban with more than 100 countries, and America is on that list. But an agreement dating back to 1960 exempts U.S. military personnel, raising questions about how effective Japan's border controls really are. Kaori and Joji for CNN, Tokyo.
41 states are now reporting an increase in coronavirus cases. Danya Bacchus has the latest developments from across the mainland.
The mayor of Miami says not enough people between the ages of 18 and 34 are heeding the message to wear masks, social distance, and follow health guidelines.
I am meeting tomorrow with members of our business community to talk to them about the possibility of a future lockdown.
Florida reported nearly 14,000 new coronavirus cases in the past 24 hours. Officials at Miami's largest hospital say they are running out of beds.
We're getting to the point where it's going to be full. We have gridlock, and we won't be able to take patients in. They'll just be stacking in the ERs.
Arizona's ICUs are at 90% capacity. Texas reported its highest daily number of COVID deaths Wednesday. This Los Angeles taco shop is back open with security and increased safety measures after closing 2.5 weeks ago. The owner says he shut it down because some of his customers were refusing to wear masks and harassing his employees.
It's a tribal symbol. It's become political. It's become a symbol of allegiance. That a mask is not a symbol of anything other than trying to take care of your community.
Today, Colorado became the 26th state to require people wear face coverings in public.
The party has to end. If we're going to keep our businesses open, keep our economy open, and save lives.
Georgia's governor told local communities they cannot require masks.
It's just very hard to understand how that actually benefits public health.
Atlanta's mayor is defying the order, saying the mandatory mask ordinance in her city stands. Today, Target and CVS Pharmacy became the latest national retailers to require customers wear masks at all of their locations. Danya Backus, CBS News, Los Angeles.
Here at home, a survey of business owners finds hundreds of them can't pay the rent. Howard Dykes has another piece of the puzzle Hawaii officials are struggling to solve.
State officials collaborated with bankers and business leaders to get specific data on local businesses that have been missing rent payments. Of 1,234 local businesses surveyed, most have gotten zero rent relief, not even deferral. 1 in 5 that expect to miss rent payments expect to be unable to pay 4 to 6 months in full between June and December. That sounds like the worst is yet to come. In the 2008 recession, 1,600 local businesses failed altogether. The metrics are several times worse this time. American Airlines sends 25,000 layoff notices, including 2,500 pilots and a third of all its flight attendants, nearly 10,000 of them. New federal assistance could prevent this, but there is no sign of that yet. Alaska Airlines says it will have 2 routes to Hawaii this winter, new ones, LAX to Kauai and LAX to Kona, both starting the week before Christmas.
Oh, Howard, always good to hear about new routes. Pretty exciting stuff there. You guys, it's 12:17. Let's take you outside, looking down King Street there. Gorgeous day. Guy Hoggy, is it going to last? Here he is.
How's it on this Thursday? I'm Guy Hoggy with your HawaiiNewsNow.com forecast. We have high clouds pushing to the east. They're going to kind of block the sunshine to some extent for the morning hours for the east end of the state. More sunshine already coming in for the west end. And there's not a whole lot of rain out there until maybe tonight when a weak disturbance drops in with a few showers for some windward areas. And the winds are backing down today and tomorrow and for part of Saturday. They'll be running mostly under 15 miles an hour. That will lead to higher than normal humidity levels. And with all the sunshine, it's going to be really, really sticky out there. High temperatures running around 90 degrees. Like I said, we're not going to see a whole lot of rain. Perhaps some afternoon showers for some interior spots. And then windward showers are expected later tonight as a weak disturbance drops in with the trade wind flow. Now, the surf's going to be a little bigger today for the east shores from Christina. That tropical storm kicked up a swell that's going to pick up today and tomorrow, maybe with some head-high sets. And over the weekend, we're expecting a nice little bump for South Shores, but it's not going to be all that big. So we've got basically calm weather for the next several days. Again, lighter winds all the way through early Saturday. We are expecting some overnight showers, maybe tonight, maybe through tomorrow as well from that weak disturbance. And then stronger trade winds take over for the weekend. Keep it here on Hawaii News Now. We'll have all your severe weather updates.
Awesome, Guy. All right, we found a bunch of stories the internet is talking about right now. And the first one, I mean, those warm temperatures, you're going to appreciate this first one. All right, Busch Beer has revealed its latest flavor. Actually, it's sort of the first time they've done a new flavor, Busch Apple.
Okay, like
Apple.
A cider?
You know, I'm not sure if it's really like a, it says it's a crisp, light flavor, but it's still under the Busch Beer brand. So I'm not sure if it's more beer or more cider. I like ciders. I don't know how I'd feel about artificial flavoring in beer, but oh, Well, it's available till October, so we'll have to check it out.
All right. This is kind of cool. Former First Lady Michelle Obama, she's getting into the podcast game. She's launching a podcast on Spotify. It's aptly titled The Michelle Obama Podcast and scheduled to debut on July 29th. Now, the series will focus on relationships and share the former First Lady's most candid and personal conversations with listeners. Guests include late-night host Conan O'Brien, top Obama White House advisor Valerie Jarrett, and Michelle Obama's mother and brother. And this is really funny. Former heavyweight boxing champ Mike Tyson will kick off Discovery Channel's Shark Week by taking on a new opponent. Now, the network says he will square off underwater against a shark.
No way.
Yeah, and it's going to be billed Tyson versus Jaws Rumble on the Reef.
I don't know. Who's going to win there?
I know. So the promo shows him lifting weights, breaking a surfboard, knocking down a shark cage, and trying to blow up an inflatable raft. No word on exactly how Tyson and the shark will interact, but the network says no sharks were injured.
All right, let me show you what I found. Nintendo and Lego teaming up for this. It's a new edition 2,600-piece set, folks. That's a pretty big one. So you can build this Lego set into your Nintendo original, which I love. We talked about Super Mario Brothers earlier.
Wait, so that console's Legos?
It's all Legos.
Wow.
It's all Legos.
That's really cool.
Yeah. And I don't know if that, I don't know if the cartridge is Legos too, because that seems hard to do.
I'm sure they are.
But I guess the screen actually scrolls too, so there's some mechanics behind it as well.
That's really dope.
All right, let's get to some good news now.
Yes, so an impromptu performance at a Massachusetts store turned into the gift of a lifetime for a mystery musician. Here's Michael George.
A mystery musician popped into Remarkable Cleanouts and Services over the weekend and asked to play the piano. Video of the impromptu performance was a hit online, and store owner Mark Waters got an idea.
I said, well, give him the piano, bring the kid in. We'll be more than happy to bring it to him, you know, but we can't find him. Can't find him. Nobody knows who this young man was.
They managed to track down John Capron, a college student in Boston, through social media.
It didn't make sense, so I looked it up, and then I saw your post on Twitter. Then I was like, all right, I have to respond to this to make sure I'm not in trouble.
Quite the opposite. Waters wanted to give Capron the $200 piano for free, but then he upped his offer.
It's a nicer name. It's called a Steinway. You ever hear of Steinway?
You do not own a Steinway.
You're gonna own a Steinway.
Are you serious?
That piano is valued at $3,000. Waters was as happy to give the gift as Capron was to receive it.
I'm a giver, you should say. I like to give. And when I give to you and you smile, that makes me feel good. You know, if you can make somebody else happy, bring a little joy in their heart. That's what life's about, brother. Peace be with you.
Michael George, CBS News.
And of course they have to get that Journey song in there to get in my head, right?
Oh, I love that story.
I know, good news there. I loved it.
And some more good news. Hawaii's Special Olympics are going virtual, and athletes got shout outs from officers across the state as the torch was passed virtually. That's right, judges will monitor the different events through Zoom calls. Hawaii Island, Maui, and Kauai have already held their qualifying events, and Oahu is coming up this Saturday. The statewide competition is on August 8th.
Hey guys, that's gonna do it for This Is Now. Know what tomorrow is?
Friday!
Yes, we're made it, guys. We'll see you back here tomorrow. Stay safe, everyone. Have a good one.
Aloha.